Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. I've got another book review for you today, but we're going to be doing another audio book review. This was Shatterpoint, this Star Wars Legends novel by Matthew Stover. This was an Audible book that I downloaded, and it is depicting a story about Mace Windu. Now, one of the things I'll say sort of before I get into this is, so Mace Windu is obviously an awesome character, and we've always wanted to know more about him. We always felt that he was a cool character that in the Clone Wars we get more of, which is great. He's quite a badass, and he's quite savage sometimes, but we always wanted more detail, and in the movies Samuel L. Jackson obviously plays him great, but we don't get him for too long, sadly, but before he's thrown out of that window unceremoniously. But Shatterpoint is about Mace Windu, and I had watched Star Wars Theory one day, and he'd mentioned how Shatterpoint is a great book for explaining what Shatterpoint is, which is Mace Windu's power to describe it in a way that is just simple, not going into depth just yet, but he sees the cracks that lie in between the fabric of the Force, meaning that he can see things like weaknesses. So when he looks at a tank, he uses his Shatterpoint ability, which not many people have, like at all, it's very rare, to see where the weak points are of the tank to know what to attack. So for example, if he feels that there's a weakness in the front end of its chassis, then he feels that through the Force. He doesn't see, like a screen or anything. In his head, he sees almost like, like the depiction of like DNA. He sees this kind of very interconnected world where everything is connected, and there is shatter points. The shatter points themselves are the weak spots, or the the important parts. So I'm currently listening to the Revenge of the Sith novel, and it mentions his Shatterpoint ability in that, and he talks about how when Anakin has found out about Palpatine being a Sith Lord, he can no longer see his Shatterpoints. Instead, he is just one big Shatterpoint. He is vulnerable, he is scared, he's fearful, but that makes him dangerous because he's full of all of these things. Whereas normally he might look into a Shatterpoint and see that Anakin is guarding his left side. He has an injury in his knee or something, for example. So that's kind of the idea of Shatterpoint, and it was something that was always in the lore mentioned as one of the reasons that Mace Windu is such an incredible fighter and such a great swordsman, is he can see weaknesses. He invented Vapard, which it also talks about in there. It's a lightsaber form, and a form of combat that is very aggressive. And again, it goes hand in hand with the Shatterpoint that he uses, and it talks about that in the book. But to sort of break down what the book is about, it's about Mace Windu, but on a very particular mission or journey. And personally, I listened to this as an audiobook. Personally, I struggled with the world building. I felt that the way the story was made, because he goes back to his home planet, the Corran planet, which is like a jungle planet, and there's a lot of side characters who get a lot of, not screen time, but they get a lot of audio time, let's say. And I just personally felt like, to be fair, it's because it's a jungle planet as well. It's hard to build a reference point when it's a jungle. A jungle could look like anything. If you're talking about Tatooine, you can use your ideas of a desert and then build the huts into it, and then they can explain things and points of interest that can help you build that. I felt that the story struggled to do that on the jungle planet, because maybe it's difficult to explain exactly the surroundings without wasting a lot of book time on it. But I found that was the case, at least for me. In terms of character development for Mace Windu, I felt like I wanted more personally, and obviously there's the Star Wars fan in me that wants just more and more and more, and rich lore. I don't want any of that side jargon. But I understand that is part of a world building, and if anything, actually reading and listening to books has really opened my eyes to the descriptive power that is needed in a book, as opposed to on the screen. I understood it anyway, but this has given me a much better understanding, because you can tell when a book builds a world well, in a way that isn't wasting your time on details that don't matter, only using details and words that enhance the description to really build it for you in your mind. Because obviously, being imaginative and creative helps you enjoy a book more, because you can visualize and really build the world in your head and see what it is that they're describing. And other books have done that really well. I felt that this Shatterpoint book didn't do it as well as I'd have liked. And like I say, like the pieces of lore that we got on Mace Windu in the book, fantastic. The descriptions of Shatterpoint and Vapard and his mindset and the things that he endured, kind of when for his memories of his time on the planet, and various other bits and interactions he's had with Yoda and clone troopers and things like that. I just felt like there wasn't enough, and to be honest, for the most part in the book, the only things that Mace Windu I always say that Mace Windu really has to overcome are really kind of idle threats for someone of his stature. And at the times where you want him to just absolutely rip shit up and kick ass, he honestly, it's kind of underwhelming that the main protagonist and his links, with the I won't go into it too much, but there is a being who uses the Force, but not in a way that a Sith or a Jedi does. And as the protagonist, you would hope that Mace Windu prevails in a way that is kind of shock and awe, or at least there's something that kind of makes you think, right, okay, we're learning all of this lore about Mace, and then we see just how much of an incredible warrior he is. But to be honest, it's kind of underwhelming at the end. He is bested by someone, but kind of lets himself be bested. At the same time, it kind of it felt like it led up and led up and led up towards what would be a huge crescendo and a big ending, and then it was kind of underwhelming to me, at least, because basically Deborah Balaba was his Padawan, and she was sent to this planet by the Jedi on a mission at some point. She doesn't come back. She loses contact. He goes there because he's sent to go and figure out what's happening, because apparently there's reports that she has done dark things. And he finds that she's kind of been lost to this jungle. When he finds her, she's not the same person she used to be. And I don't know how to describe it other than it's kind of, when you listen to a story, you're wondering, why do I care? And you're wondering, why do the people involved care? Why are they doing this? At times I was thinking, I feel like there must be an easier way to do it, or this isn't as impressive as I thought it would be. I mean, when he's just fighting grunts, Mace Windu is he's great, but you would expect that. It's more the fact when he's kind of fighting the big bad, or he's in any kind of serious conflict, he just kind of is underwhelming. But to be honest, like I say, because it's like guerrilla warfare in the jungle, and he's exhausted, he's he hasn't slept, hasn't showered, hasn't eaten very well, like those things tie into it. But like I say, because of the way the world is built, you don't feel like he's up against it and still managing to hang on. You feel like these things shouldn't matter, he's Mace Windu. So at the end of it, I was kind of like, I wanted a little bit more than that. There is a big battle, in some way, as there is in a lot of these books, but in terms of what I expected from the book, I thought that it would be honestly a more riveting story. It was, like I say, it was great to get the lore we did, but I do think that they could have written a story that was more centered around Mace Windu and development of him. It goes off on tangents of other characters in ways that I don't think are important. I mean, it world builds, but not in a way that I think it should have spent or devoted so much time to, at least. Like I say, I listened to it as an Audible book. The voice acting was okay. So the Koran language is quite strange. Like, they speak basic, but kind of like Yoda does. So some of it is a little bit, it's a little bit odd, but there's nothing wrong with that. Like, the voice acting was fine. It was just, it didn't really, it didn't really add to the story. It was just because that's how the book goes. The sound effects, again, at times were great, and times not. Things like the humming of a lightsaber, creatures, or things like that. It all adds to the feeling immersed in the story, but I didn't ever feel like it really enhanced the story too much, because I was struggling to visualize the world it was building. If I was to recommend this book, I wouldn't recommend it ahead of some of the others I've talked about on the channel already, and some of the other books I'm reading and listening to that I will talk about on the channel in due course. I would put it down there on that kind of list. It's definitely worth a listen or read. I would say listen to it, because get through it in a few days like I did, and move on to the next one. Maybe if I read it myself, it would have been better. I would have experienced the world building in a different way, but personally, from the way I listened to it, I didn't feel like that would maybe change it. But who knows? Maybe in the future I'll give it a go, at least some passages, and see if I change my mind and want to go back and go through the story again. But I would probably give this book a 6 out of 10 if I were to give it a score. Like I say, it's Mace Windu, so I'm happy to enjoy the bits that I got and see out the story to get those bits of information and those points of view from Mace Windu, those tidbits about Vapard and what it's all about. And one of the things I'll say before I go is kind of Vapard and that style. He talks about how it's kind of like a tentacle, like monster of some sort. The tentacles are always outreaching, trying to use anything they can to progress the assault, and it's a very aggressive form, and it's kind of like, if you can imagine a giant like octopus, as soon as you're fighting one thing, another of the tentacles is coming at you with something else and something else and something else. And the idea of Vapard is that it's just an onslaught of just absolute sheer like savagery that's just going to overwhelm you. So you're being attacked from all angles, all velocities, like you're not safe anywhere. And it does talk about that in a way that is really interesting. I just wanted more of it, or more relevance in the story at hand, because I felt like we were getting those bits of detail, but then not to a degree that had really anything to do with the story. It was more so just like, do you want to know about Mace Windu? Here's some information. So mixed reviews on it. As I say about the other novels, like, they're all great in their own right. They have various things they offer. They all offer information that we're dying to know as big Star Wars fans like myself. And this isn't a knock on the authors or anything. They obviously know what they're doing a lot more than I would. It's just me, my experience of it. I didn't feel like it immersed me the way the other books have so far. But a 6 out of 10 I think is a fair score for my experience with it. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. Do subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on this video if you enjoy it, and go and check out some of my other videos. There's plenty of them, and there's plenty more to come. I've got all sorts of content coming, and my content varies. I'm a creator, I'm a collector, I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm a pop culture fan. So every other day it could be different. So I know I've got some other book reviews coming to the channel, but I've also got some videos about some more action figure reviews, some photography, toy photography product reviews, things like that. Even Lego Star Wars minifigs, and how you can you can grab a few of those and keep them on you in your backpack or in your car or whatever. and just, you know, take them with you. And when you're just sort of waiting around somewhere or sitting in a coffee shop taking a break, you know, you can just grab some from your bag and, you know, do some toy photography. So there's all sorts of projects to come, and I'm sure this summer I'll be cracking on with some more dioramas. But yeah, if you enjoy this kind of content, be sure to subscribe and you won't miss it. But I'm going to leave you with that, guys. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.